they're pretty hot. And you can say whatever you want about me. It's not my fault. I didn't make them do that. They did that. That's the point. That's the whole point of the movie, is that you're supposed to be sitting there thinking, look at the blonde one. You're supposed to be sitting there holding these two thoughts in your head, and one that these are kids, and the other that they're hot.
Mr. Girl is a YouTuber, but surely you didn't need me to tell you that. This University of Colorado graduate describes himself as a sexual exhibitionist on multiple occasions. Looking at his YouTube videos, one might assume that he simply takes pleasure in saying and doing whatever he can for attention, but you may begin to question that theory when you look under the surface. An example being his infamous review of the movie Cuties, where he claims that you're supposed to enjoy watching the 11-year-old actors twerk on screen.
They're pretty hot.
The fears of Mr. Girl come to two things: irrelevancy and black people. Let's take some time to explain the last one. So, Mr. Girl's first bit of irrelevancy kind of stemmed from a pretty tragic event. In April of 2007, a student opened fire at Virginia Tech, killing 32 people and wounding 17 others. It's one of the most deadly mass shootings to this day in the US. What distantly connects Mr. Girl, or Max Carson, to this event was his take on the matter, and what he would do at his university. First, he argued that those grieving the people who were shot and killed by the school shooter should instead feel sorry for the school shooter. Now, you'd think that this wouldn't be taken very seriously, right? I mean, it's 2007, Twitter wasn't exactly the full-fledged pain machine it is nowadays. Now, instead of that, Carson decided to use his position as editor of the university's newsletter to spread his belief. And to add on to the matter, he decided to do this a literal day after the shooting occurred. It doesn't stop there either, because on top of the now pro-school shooter propaganda, he assumed it would be best to add a suicide note with the school letter too, along with his theory of why girls don't like him, a full-on Q&A style fanfiction about female masturbation, and admitting to the fear of black people that I mentioned earlier. As you'd imagine, a few people had actually gotten legitimately concerned about a fellow student trying to kill themselves no more than a day after someone did the same. Along with taking 32 other people with him. So rather than entertaining the conversation, they would call the police in fear that he was a potential copycat, and being the exhibitionist that he is, not only would he tell the police about his beliefs, he would make a Reddit account for nothing more than starting an Ask Me Anything thread. In it, he says he was arrested because the Women's Studies Department caught wind of him going on about how everyone had violent thoughts. I agree when he says that there needs to be a better understanding as to why people feel the need to go to school shootings, but there is such a thing as reading the room. A day after a school shooting, and you're saying that attention should go from the victims to empathizing with the school shooter. Well, along with everything else you put in that newsletter. It's almost as if you're hinting that you relate to the shooter's mindset, that you do as he did. It makes sense that the college did what they did. So with that bit of backstory out of the way, I'd say now is a good time to get into his YouTube content. One of the videos that'll probably draw a person's attention goes by the title, Why Did I Make a Porn Movie?
Welcome to my porn movie.
Hi, horses.
Opening the video teaches the viewer two things in the span of 2 seconds. Number one is that he commonly refers to his viewer base as horses. And number two is that YouTube seems to be fine with using horse genitals on your screen as B-roll footage. You could make the argument that most won't see it because the video is age restricted. Only problem is that it would have to be age restricted to make that point. Anyways, to make a story short, Mr. Girl decided to make a not safe for work video and upload it onto The Hub. In the video, he goes through his day and what he usually does before getting to the part that I probably shouldn't have watched while eating Wendy's. In the YouTube video, he explains why he made it in the first place. And to save you your time, he did it because he doesn't like the divide between the real world and the porn world. He does end up making some points, like sex workers being looked down on and the like, but his jokes do an ample job at undermining the source this video is coming from.
I think our society's whole relationship to porn needs to change. Almost everyone watches porn, yet almost everyone looks down on porn actors and creators. Your daughter takes pictures of herself naked and posts them on Reddit, and I find them and I jerk off to them. Your little cousin makes bikini try-on videos on YouTube. Oh, and I find them and I jerk off to them. I just downloaded fucking TikTok, okay? I am scraping the bottom of the legal bear. I don't want to say that.
Don't make me say it.
I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel here, the legal barrel. Yeah, I'll say it.
It might just be me, but saying how you want porn accepted while pointing out the downsides it already has doesn't exactly make the best case. This sounds more like what Christian moms would use to make porn legally outlawed. Anyway, that's about it for that video. He goes on more about how he thinks porn isn't as accepted as it should be, but I'd rather not have to think about what I saw longer than I need to. Last on our agenda here, we have the guy's thoughts on pedophilia. The only thing is, we won't be looking at his Cuties review for this. The reason being that these are his more recent views. Those recent views being, hey, I saw a child twerking movie and they were kinda hot. Instead, I wanted to see if he talked about pedophilia before, and if he did, were his views still consistent?
When I have kids of my own, and I'm absolutely going to, and I pick a babysitter, I'm going to prefer someone who has explored that pedophile part of their sexuality. I actually would feel much less safe with someone who denies it.
Check and check. Uploaded a year ago, we have Pedophiles Are Sick and Evil. Ugh. God. The video begins with text that reads, recognizing the difference between thoughts and actions is part of what makes America great. Sex with minors is rape. Thinking about it is not. It takes a special art to state the obvious the wrong way, because yeah, thinking about it isn't. It's just what we call a problem. Thinking about it often can lead to carrying the act out, and before you know it... In the description, he says he was a child sexual abuse victim himself, and that this wasn't a subject he takes lightly, despite the tone of the video.
Becoming a priest in the hopes that you can somehow lock those feelings up and throw away the key and it'll never resurface does not work. We need something better. We need little kid sex robots.
You'll never want a real man again.
Look, that's a joke, but not really.
It sounds about right, really. Most children who are molested would probably support people having child sex dolls. It only makes sense until they eventually start to want the real thing. His next point is that people only say pedophilia is bad because it's stigmatized.
How come there are video games where you can kill people, you can even kill children, but none where you can rape them? And if you try to tell me that rape is a worse crime than murder, I'd like you to read my favorite Alice Sebold quote. Those who say they would rather fight to the death than be raped are fools. I'd rather be raped 1,000 times. So, no.
I mean, I'm against both killing and sexual violation, so... I don't know what to say there. Surely you can just say that both are bad without needing to compare which is worse. He mentions that even with how stigmatized pedophilic thoughts are, we all have them, and that's no. Having a thought doesn't exactly add up to having an affinity for it. I've had intrusive thoughts about swerving off the road and killing myself in a car crash, but you don't see me exploring it further, do you? No, because I know the consequences. And odd enough, a person in a car crash and a child exposed to pedophilic acts both experience similar results. Their life getting screwed over and having to deal with traumatizing events. He then goes on to say how everyone has a fetish.
But what do you do when that fetish is for raping children? How do you handle that in a society where even talking about this gets you dislikes and death threats? I look at the comment section, but don't you get it? That vitriol is what makes this happen. The vitriol is why it is so hard to get help with these urges. Whether that means going to therapy and figuring out your other needs that aren't being met in your life, or finding another pervert to roleplay with like I did, or like that girl did.
Holy cow.
Or getting little Calvin and Hobbes sex robots to fulfill your every fantasy.
Martin, no.
Or you could do the first option, rather than make light of the issue. If you're dealing with pedophilic tendencies, you need to go to therapy. This video has been nothing more but trying to reinforce and normalize pedophilia. Saying it's normal and should be accepted doesn't help. Saying it happens and you should seek therapy or some other form of help if it gets out of control does. And that's what I'm gonna end this video on. If you feel like touching a child, get some help. Go to therapy. Do anything other than mentally and physically scar a child. Like, why is it so hard to get that across? It's almost like humans go towards acceptance rather than disapproval, even when it's a clear-cut case of right and wrong.
You know, I'd like to be the first deep fake child porn star. I want to be the little boy who started it all. You take these pictures of me as a kid and you make a fully nude, functional CG model of me with a huge fucking dick. And then you put me in a mocap suit and I will rock your fucking world.
I'm done. I'm out. See you next video.